You are sitting alone in a room. The door is shut. Nobody is there. And yet, for one cold second, the hair on the back of your neck stands up. You turn around. There is no one behind you. You laugh at yourself and go back to what you were doing. But the real answer to why that happened is far stranger than nerves and far older than you. That feeling has a name. Scientists call it hypervigilance, and it is not a glitch. It is a feature. It is one of the oldest pieces of software still running inside your skull, written long before you were born, long before language, long before the room you are sitting in even existed as an idea. To understand it, you have to stop thinking about yourself as a modern person in a safe house. You have to go back, way back, back to a version of you that did not have walls or doors or locks, back to an ancestor standing at the edge of tall grass on an open plain, with the sun going down and the light bleeding out of the sky. For that ancestor, the dark was not cozy. The dark was full. Out there in the grass, something was almost always watching. Maybe a leopard, maybe a rival group, maybe nothing at all. And here is the cruel math your ancestors lived inside every single night. If they assumed the rustle in the grass was just the wind, and it was actually a predator, they died. If they assumed the rustle was a predator, and it was actually just the wind, they lost nothing but a few seconds and a little adrenaline. One mistake costs everything. The other mistake costs almost nothing. So which kind of brain do you think survived? The anxious one, the jumpy one, the one that turned around in the dark for no reason at all. Across millions of years, calm and careless ancestors were quietly removed from the gene pool, one missed predator at a time. The ones who lived to pass down their genes were the ones who flinched first and asked questions later. You are their descendant. Their fear is your inheritance. There is a name for this part of your mind, and a researcher who described it beautifully. The anthropologist Stuart Guthrie spent years studying why humans see faces and intentions everywhere, even in clouds, in shadows, in the patterns of static on an old television screen. He argued that our minds are built to overdetect agents. An agent is anything that can act on its own. A person, an animal, a threat, something with a will. Your brain, Guthrie showed, would rather invent an agent that is not there than miss one that is. Think about that for a moment. Your mind is not designed to see the world accurately. Your mind is designed to keep you alive. And those are not the same goal. A perfectly accurate brain that occasionally missed a hidden predator would have died out. A slightly paranoid brain that sometimes jumped at nothing survived to become you. The psychologist Justin Barrett gave this system an even sharper name. He called it the hyperactive agency detection device. It is a clumsy phrase, so let it go and just hold the idea underneath it. Inside your brain sits a kind of smoke alarm for other minds. And like every smoke alarm you have ever owned, it is tuned to be too sensitive on purpose. Burnt toast sets it off. A candle sets it off. It screams at the smallest hint of fire, because the one time it stays silent could be the time the house actually burns down. That alarm is what fires when you feel watched in an empty room. But there is a second layer to this, and it is even stranger. Because your brain does not just detect agents. It is exquisitely, almost frighteningly tuned to detect one specific thing about them. Eyes. You have a region in your brain, tucked along the side, called the superior temporal sulcus. Part of its job is to figure out where other eyes are pointed. Are they looking at you or past you? This is not a small skill. For a social animal living in groups, knowing who is watching you is a matter of survival. A stare can mean attraction. It can mean challenge. It can mean a predator has locked on. Your ancestors who could read a gaze in a fraction of a second had an enormous advantage, and so your brain became a gaze reading machine without you ever asking it to. Here is where it gets uncomfortable. The vision scientist Colin Clifford and his colleagues ran a series of experiments on how people judge where someone is looking. They showed participants faces with eyes pointed in directions that were hard to read, deliberately ambiguous, hidden in shadow, and they discovered something revealing about your default setting. When you cannot tell whether a face is looking at you, your brain does not guess away. Your brain guesses at me. Uncertainty does not make you feel unwatched. Uncertainty makes you feel watched. Why would evolution build you that way? Because the cost is lopsided, just like the rustle in the grass. If you wrongly assume a stranger is staring at you, you waste a little attention and feel a flicker of unease. If you wrongly assume a stranger is not staring at you, you might miss a threat sizing you up. So your brain leans, always, toward the assumption of being seen. In the absence of information, it fills the silence with eyes. Now put the pieces together. You have a mind that invents agents that are not there. You have a mind that reads eyes everywhere. And you have a mind that, when unsure, defaults to the belief that those eyes are aimed at you. Sit alone in a quiet room with all of that machinery running, and the feeling of being watched is not a malfunction. It is the perfectly logical output of a survival system doing exactly what it was built to do. There is one more part of you involved, and it works faster than thought. Deep in your brain sit two small almond-shaped clusters called the amygdala. The neuroscientist Ralph Adolphs has spent his career studying them, especially how they handle fear in faces. The amygdala is your threat dispatcher. It can react to a frightened expression or a hint of danger before the conscious, thinking part of your brain has even caught up. That is why the chill on your neck arrives before the thought. The feeling comes first. The explanation comes second, scrambling to make sense of a fear it did not start. So the sequence inside you goes like this. A tiny ambiguous signal slips in. A creak, a shift in the air, a shadow at the edge of your vision. Your ancient alarm fires before you can stop it. Your body floods with the old chemistry of the open plain. Only then does your modern mind turn around, see the empty room, and try to explain away a fear that was never really about the room at all. You are not haunted. You are inhabited. Inhabited by every ancestor who survived because they were afraid at the right moment. And this is where it stops being about the dark and starts being about your whole life. Because that same machinery is running all day long, in places you never connected to fear. Have you ever felt certain that people in a room were talking about you, even when they were not? Have you ever walked into a party and felt every eye land on you, when in truth, almost no one looked up? Have you ever posted something, then felt the crushing sense that everyone was watching and judging it, when most people scrolled past without a second of thought? That is the same system. The gaze detector, the agency alarm, the lopsided math of better safe than sorry, applied to a modern world it was never designed for. Your ancestors needed that alarm to survive a landscape full of real predators and real rivals. You inherited it intact and then dropped it into a world of glass screens and crowded rooms and strangers who genuinely are not thinking about you at all. The hardware did not get the memo. It still treats every uncertainty as a possible pair of watching eyes. There is even research suggesting that loneliness sharpens this. People who feel socially isolated tend to become more vigilant for threat, more attuned to faces, more likely to read coldness or judgment into a neutral glance. The psychologist John Cacioppo, who spent his life studying loneliness, described it as a state that puts the brain on high alert. The lonelier you feel, so the next time you are alone, and the back of your neck goes cold, and you turn to find an empty room, try to remember what you are actually feeling. You are feeling the open plain. You are feeling the grass at dusk. You are feeling the leopard that your great-great-great-thousand times great-grandmother survived, because in that one critical moment, she turned around when there was probably nothing there. You are feeling the price of every ancestor who lived long enough to have you. That cold flicker is not weakness. It is the oldest love letter in the world, written by survival itself, telling you to stay alert so that you, too, get to pass the feeling on.